Y News with Angelo Castro III, William Theo, and Darlene Basingan.
The police have further tightened the monitoring of checkpoints in the cities of Marawi and Iligan. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
Authorities are now acting on information that the car passes they release are being faked. Police give car passes to those who deliver relief goods, members of the media, and government personnel so they would no longer have to fall in line at checkpoints.
Pinuntahan namin yung bawat mga photocopy center, yung sa Xerox. Totoo yun na mayroong nag-reproduce ng car pass. Then, kaya nga, puspusan yung pagbabantay natin sa ating checkpoint tungkol po sa car pass.
Authorities assure that the car passes they provide cannot be easily copied.
Hindi lang yung fake na car pass, fake IDs at saka yung mga mission order na ginagaya nila. Meron naman tayong security feature na alam natin kung alin yung fake at saka hindi.
The National Incident Management Team of Iligan City is now coordinating with other government agencies for the tighter monitoring of all entry and exit points in the city.
Ang plano namin na corrective measure is to coordinate the right agency like the Bureau of Fire at saka yung PNP natin at sila talaga din ang tumutulong sa atin as provider ng resources na ito sa ating pag-inspection.
Authorities are thoroughly inspecting all motorcycles and vehicles before allowing them to enter the city. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development will conduct validation on families in Mindanao displaced by the ongoing armed conflict. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
The number of families displaced by the armed conflict in Mindanao has already reached more than 100,000, according to the figures of the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD. DSWD Secretary Judy Tagiwalo says they have to validate the said number to ensure that all displaced families are receiving aid while the conflict in Marawi City is still ongoing.
Right now, the report says 101,086 families. When we started our assistance, it was just around 10,000. So talagang exponential yung growth, no? So we are validating this.
The DSWD also plans to transfer the evacuees to temporary shelters with the help of local government units so they will no longer have to stay in tents. Meanwhile, DSWD has thanked COMELEC for its 1 million peso donation for the families affected by the crisis in Marawi City.
Sabi ko kanina kay Chair Andy, this is the first donation we have received from a fellow government. Ito ay isang symbolic na message, that the different government agencies are coming together to assist our people in Marawi.
COMELEC has also sent aid to 112 COMELEC employees affected by the crisis in Lanao del Sur, particularly in Iligan City and Cagayan de Oro.
Sa pangunguna ng COMELEC Employees Union, ng ibang mga opisina, hindi lang dito sa Maynila, pati na rin sa rehiyon. Kung kaya't kami naka-raise din ng, I think it's also over 1 million.
DSWD plans to include a variety of items in their food packages from the donations they are receiving. DSWD also calls on those who want to donate to coordinate with them for assistance as to which items are in high demand to affected residents in Mindanao. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
But let me just tell everybody that I have declared martial law for Mindanao.
Majority of Filipinos support President Rodrigo Duterte's martial law declaration in Mindanao. This is the result of the survey of social weather stations conducted from June 23 to 26. 57% of 1,200 respondents say it is only proper to put the entire Mindanao under martial law. 29% says it must be limited only to Marawi City and Lanao del Sur. 11% says martial law should cover Marawi and neighboring provinces, while 2% are undecided. Meanwhile, retired Chief Justice Renato Puno believes President Rodrigo Duterte will need another proclamation if martial law is to be imposed in other areas outside of Mindanao. Roderick Mendoza explains why.
Retired Chief Justice Reinato Puno supports the Supreme Court's ruling on the petitions challenging the martial law in Mindanao. In an interview with Kuya Daniel Razon, Puno says the declaration has already been affirmed.
Doon sa desisyon ng kataas-taasang hukuman, 11 ang pumanig, nagsabi na may sufficient factual basis yung declaration of martial law. 11 out of 15, that is a great majority. So for all intents and purposes, na pagtibay na. Hindi lang ng ating Korte Suprema, pero pati ang ating Kongreso, sinabi na rin na yung declaration of martial law ay sangayon sa ating saligang batas.
He says it is within the power of the President to ask for an extension of martial law from the Congress. But it will be different if martial law will be extended to other areas such as Visayas. For CJ Puno, the extension is allowed only on the duration and not the territorial scope of martial rule.
Kung palalawakin yung sakop ng martial law, marahil another proclamation ang kailangan doon.
The former Chief Justice also said the Congress needs to promulgate its internal rules for situations like this. There is vagueness on the constitutional provision on whether they must automatically convene to review the martial law declaration. The two houses of Congress decided they are only obliged to do so if they intend to revoke the proclamation of the President.
Mukhang dito sa sitwasyon na ito, wala silang internal rules. So siguro, ang unang dapat gawin ng ating Kongreso, isipin kung ano yung rules ng Congress that will govern the situations like this.
CJ Puno said another remedy is to revise and clarify the constitutional provision on the issue. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
And in other news, members of the Philippine delegation to the Hague Permanent Court of Arbitration are calling on the Rodrigo Duterte administration to fortify the arbitral ruling that favored the Philippines against China over maritime disputes in the West Philippine Sea. Nel Maribohok will tell us why.
Former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert Del Rosario sees no change over the action of China a year after the Permanent Court of Arbitration decided over the West Philippine Sea maritime dispute issue favoring the Philippines. The arbitration case was filed in January 2013 under the term of Del Rosario. According to the former secretary, the administration should have a clear policy regarding the matter. Also, the government should continue fighting for the country's rights over the West Philippine Sea.
I suggest that we exhaust all diplomatic avenues that are available to us in promoting the ruling and the rule of international law.
Former National Security Advisor Roy Logoles meanwhile worries on the possible consequences if China's militarization continues in the disputed waters.
A militarized Scarborough Shoal would complete China's strategic triangle, giving China full control of the South China Sea.
Meanwhile, according to Supreme Court Associate Justice Antonio Carpio, the government may enforce the tribunal ruling without waging war against China. One way is to enter into sea boundary agreements with Vietnam and Malaysia. Also, according to Carpio, the ASEAN member states should be very careful in drafting the provisions of the Code of Conduct.
With this experience, we must ensure that the Code of Conduct is clear, that it does not supplant the UNCLOS dispute settlement mechanism on maritime disputes.
Likewise, Justice Carpio reminds President Duterte of his constitutional duty regarding the issue.
The President cannot simply do nothing to the seizure of Philippine territory by a foreign state. As Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, the President has the constitutional duty to preserve and defend the territorial integrity of the Philippines.
But he clarified that for the meantime, the President is not violating the Constitution if he prefers not to raise the issue. For its part, DFA assures that the administration is committed to protect the country's territorial and maritime entitlements. However, it says the ongoing territorial dispute issue must be resolved in a manner with the spirit of good neighborly relations. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa confirms that President Rodrigo Duterte has ordered to reinstate to active duty the group of Police Superintendent Marvin Marcos. Radjeladora will tell us why.
Suspended siya. Tapos na ang suspension. Sabi ko, ibalik ninyo sa trabaho yung mama na yan. Wala naman doon yan eh. He was too far away. He was not part of the raiding team. Sabi nila, may kaso, anso.
PNP Chief Director General Ronald De La Rosa said the group of Police Superintendent Marvin Marcos will return to active duty following orders from the President as soon as their suspension ends. De La Rosa says it will be a waste of government fund if they will be compensated with monthly salary for doing nothing.
Balik siya sa dati ang unit. Ang unit niya sa IDG. Bahala na sa IDG kung saan siya ilagay. Sayang man din kung walang ginagawa, di ba? Sayang, walang ginagawa. Sumusweldo. Walang ginagawa, di ba trabahuin natin?
The PNP chief adds that the group still has to face the charges filed against them.
So bahala na yun kung paano tatakbo yung criminal. Basta as far as the administrative case is concerned, that was already resolved. May resolution na favorably sa kanila.
Marcos and his men are facing administrative and homicide charges for their involvement in the killing of Albuera Mayor Rolando Espinosa Sr. inside the Baybay Sub-Provincial Jail in Leyte. Radjeladora, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Bureau of Jail Management and Phenology will recommend to President Duterte to centralize the management of all prison facilities across the country. Victor Cosare will tell us why.
The Bureau of Jail Management and Penology currently detains 143,357 inmates. The country's detention facilities suffer from a congestion rate of 589%. Pulilan Municipal Jail in Region 3 has the highest congestion rate at 3,590%. Jail officials argue that Bucor is under the management of the Department of Justice, while the BJMP is under the Department of Interior and Local Government. Provincial governors, meanwhile, have the authority over provincial jails. Given the current situation, BJMP officials will ask President Rodrigo Duterte to centralize the management of all prison facilities in the country. This is so they could use other available facilities such as the vast lands of the Bureau of Correction, which they cannot use.
Magkakaroon ng solusyon ang problema namin sa congestion kasi ang Bucor napakarami niyang properties, yung mga farm, malalawak ang lupa. And doon pwedeng ilagay ang mga mga bagong jails, mga building, and makapagtanim mga inmates natin para dagdag sa kanilang pagkain.
Meanwhile, BJMP continues to conduct internal cleansing. BJMP Director, Jail Director Serafin Barreto says they are conducting drug tests on their personnel as well as inmates suspected of using illegal drugs. He says 4,000 prisoners have already undergone drug tests. Those who tested positive were transferred to a stricter detention facility in Camp Bagong Diwa in Taguig City. 18 BJMP personnel who tested positive of using illicit drugs were sacked, while 14 others are still under investigation.
Yung mga inmates naman kinakasuhan uli and nililipat namin sila sa mas mahigpit na lugar. 18 na yung napatanggal namin na mga personnel dyan at iba mga pinasuhan pa.
Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Next on Y News. Militant groups to stage a massive protest coinciding with the second State of the Nation address of President Rodrigo Duterte.
The Department of Agriculture bans 43 importers for involvement in garlic cartel.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA readies traffic law enforcers for Friday's Metro-wide shake drill.
Y News will be right back. Two lawmakers from the Visayas region appealed to President Rodrigo Duterte to put the entire Region 8 under the state of calamity. Victor Cosare explains why.
Eastern Samar Lone District Representative Ben Evardone and Samar 1st District Representative Edgar Sarmiento wants the entire Region 8 be placed under state of calamity. Evardone says data coming from the National Economic Development Authority or NEDA shows that the region is losing 300 up to 500 million pesos a day because of inadequate power supply brought about by the strong quake that rocked the region last week. Copra production is one of the industries suffering the brunt of the power crisis.
Marami nang umaangal ng mga negosyante, siyempre, tourism, at saka yung livelihood ng mga kababayan namin.
Isang linggo na po ang walang kuryente.
Dahil walang kuryente, walang yelo, walang ice, hindi pa makapangisda.
The lawmaker appeals to the government to deploy power barges and generators to the region. Meanwhile, the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines or NGCP says power can be supplied in Leyte province tomorrow if they will be able to repair one of their transformers. NGCP says for now only one of their 6 transformers is working. If they are not able to repair transformer 6, they will put in place a bypass line to be able to connect Ormoc City to the Cebu-Negros Panay grid. However, completing the connection might last until weekend and power can only be supplied if there is an excess in Cebu.
Sinisigurado na ho namin na hindi lang ayos pero stable at safe.
Tama.
Pag hindi ho kasi stable or safe, number 1, pwede hong sumabog, pwede hong may ma-injure, and number 2, posible hong lumala yung sira.
NGCP adds that if the transformers are not repaired, they will only supply power to the region by the end of July. Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Government agencies continuously provide aid to earthquake victims in Leyte province. Leslie Longbowen tells us why.
Government agencies are collaborating to provide the needs of earthquake-affected residents in the province of Leyte.
Ang Department of Health tuloy ang pagbibigay ng ating ayuda sa ating mga kababayan. Sa katunayan, yung kanilang binigay, hindi lang naman kasi ito mga gamot. Nagbibigay din sila ng mga tetanus vaccines para makasiguro na hindi magkakaroon ng infection, makaiwas tayo dun sa mga sakit. At bukod doon, meron din silang binibigay ng mga kagamitan para naman sa supply ng tubig. At dun sa huli na itala ng ating report, meron na tayong 2.67 million na assistance mula sa Department of Health.
As of today, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council or NDRRMC has recorded more than 79.6 million pesos worth of damage from the recent magnitude 6.5 earthquake that hit the province. NDRRMC spokesperson Romina Marasigan says they have seen minor damage in roads from their continuous assessment and no area has been isolated.
Nagkaroon tayo ng karagdagan na amount dito sa mga nasirang daan. Ang sabi nga natin, bagamat nakapagtala tayo ng mga damages dito, passable. Wala tayong naitala ng mga isolated areas, nadadaanan pa rin ng mga daan na ito, at naging lubak-lubak lamang.
Marasigan adds that they already monitored more than 800 aftershocks and advises the public to remain calm and to not panic to avoid being hurt. The government, meanwhile, is now looking for possible relocation site to place the residents living near landslide-prone areas for safety. Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA will deploy all 2,000 traffic law enforcers alongside the conduct of a metro-wide shake drill on Friday. Joe Anano will tell us why.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA is all set for the 3rd Metro-wide shake drill this coming Friday, July 14. And since the shake drill will be conducted at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which also happens to be a payday Friday, MMDA will deploy 2,000 of their traffic law enforcers to manage the expected heavy traffic.
Definitely, yung exercise na ito makaka-apekto sa traffic. So yung mga traffic enforcers natin, i-concentrate natin sa mga lugar kung saan ina-expect natin na grabe yung epekto nito sa traffic.
The shake drill will feature different scenarios that might happen in case Metro Manila is hit by a 7.2 magnitude earthquake dubbed as the Big One. The entire Metro Manila will be divided again into 4 quadrants. North Quadrant will feature scenarios that will focus on evacuation and medical treatment to be held in Veterans Memorial Medical Center. while a fire drill will be conducted in Quezon City Memorial Circle. Meanwhile, South Quadrant will also focus on evacuation, debris clearing operations, and on the possible collapse of Guadalupe Bridge. West Quadrant will conduct fire suppression scenarios, while East Quadrant will do the restoration of busted water pipes and transportation of relief goods. Camp Aguinaldo in Quezon City will serve as the headquarters of MMDA if the agency's main office in Makati collapse.
Makikita tayo yung coordination, yung kakayahan, yung mga equipment nila, lalong-lalo na yung komunikasyon.
Apart from Metro Manila, nearby areas such as Bulacan, Cavite, Laguna, and Rizal will also join the said earthquake drill. MMDA also reminds motorists of the road closure along Emerald Avenue in Ortigas in line with drill. The Metro Shake drill will be held every afternoon until July 18. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
The Department of Agriculture has banned more than 40 importers in the country. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
The Department of Agriculture has put on a blacklist 43 importers in the country for their involvement in cartel of garlic. DA's data show that around 57,000 metric tons of garlic should have been imported but only 22,000 tons had arrived in the country. Secretary Manny Piñol said the failure to import was the reason why the price of garlic spiked in the past months.
A cartel is defined as a group of businessmen who manipulate or control the prices of basic commodities to ensure that they make more money.
Based on DA's monitoring, the price of garlic at present is 180 pesos per kilogram, which is lower than 200 pesos per kilogram in May. The price reduction is after DA warned the importers.
So during the time na dapat mag-i-import sila, hindi sila nag-import. Kasi mataas yung presyo ng garlic, manipis daw ang kanilang kikitain, which is unfair.
DA added that the country's total garlic consumption is around 130,000 metric tons, of which only 7% is locally produced. This means around 60,000 metric tons of the country's consumption are smuggled. DA is now negotiating with the Bureau of Customs to intensify its anti-smuggling campaign. DA includes 200 million pesos in its 2018 budget for programs in local garlic production, which DA targets to raise up to 50% until the end of President Duterte's term. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Meanwhile, an environmental watch group campaigns for healthy and waste-free meals to be served in schools. Leslie Langbowen tells us why.
Based on data from the Food and Nutrition Research Institute, 5% of Filipino children aged 5 to 10 suffer from overweight and obesity. That's why, together with the Department of Education, are other groups that promote healthy diet in schools. Alongside the celebration of the Nutrition Month, Eco-Waste Coalition and Santo Cristo Elementary School in Quezon City presented healthy bound ideas for children. Santo Cristo Elementary School is known for serving brown rice in their canteen and monitoring their students' meals.
Mas masustansya ang brown rice compare sa white rice. Kasi pag white rice na well-milled na siya, nahugasan na yung sustansya niya. Bata pa lang dapat matuto na yung ating mga estudyante para dalhin nila yung paglaki. Magiging healthy na sila.
Under DepEd Order No. 13 Series of 2017, foods and drinks are categorized to make available healthy, nutritious, and affordable menu choices. Foods and drinks in the green category should always be available in school canteens. Those in the yellow category may be served once or twice a week only, while those in the red category are not recommended in canteen menu. Eco-Waste Coalition says foods in the green category are not only nutritious but also reduce the volume of garbage.
Ito yung mga pagbagay na kinakain natin, naiiwasan natin yung mga wrappers, naiiwasan natin yung mga plastic, naiiwasan din natin yung mga paggamit ng straw sa inumin at iba pa.
Meanwhile, students are in favor of the policy on healthy food and beverage choices in schools.
Kasi po kung unhealthy ka, paano ka po makakapag-concentrate sa pag-aaral, tsaka po sa pag-review.
Leslie Langbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
In other news, various groups are planning to stage a massive protest during the second State of the Nation address or Sona of President Rodrigo Duterte on July 24. Grace Casin tells us why.
Several groups plans to enumerate unfulfilled promises of President Rodrigo Duterte in a massive protest on the day of his second Sona. Bayan Secretary General Renato Reyes said the president only gave the people false hopes in his promises during his previous Sona. The groups also asked authorities to not stop them from airing their concerns against the administration.
Sa kontraktualisasyon, sa dagdag sahod, doon sa reforma sa lupa, doon sa mga economic policies ng kasalukuyang administrasyon. Meron pang nakaambang mga dagdag na buwis.
Sona Ground Commander QCPD Director Guillermo Elazar says they will allow protesters to hold their demonstrations around Batasan Complex like they did last year. He adds the police will also not use concrete barrier and containers to stop the rallies. The police official notes that this is as long as the group will follow the conditions it will set in holding a protest.
We will accommodate yung mga request nila as long as it will not be contradicting our security preparation. And nakikita namin na kung magkakaroon kami ng kasunduan o pagkakaunawaan, hindi magiging problema ang paglalatag natin dito sa security deployment natin.
Meanwhile, Sona Interagency Task Group held a meeting and conducted inspections inside lower house of Congress earlier today. The task group says it will tighten the security this year due to threats from rallies. Authorities are also preparing for possible attacks by terrorists.
Because marami nang nagawa ni Presidente, especially on the war on drugs and criminality, meron lang maraming nawala sa kanilang pera, tsaka mga tao, magbayad lang sila siguro, baka may mga siraulo mag-volunteer para gumawa ng gulo.
Meanwhile, they remind motorists to take alternate route to avoid inconvenience during Sona as many roads near the venue will be closed to traffic. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
NCRPO will increase the number of police during the second State of the Nation address of President Rodrigo Duterte. Joe Anano will tell us why.
The National Capital Region Police Officer NCRPO vows to tighten its monitoring and increase police presence during the State of the Nation address of President Rodrigo Duterte on July 24. This year, the NCRPO plans to deploy 6,000 policemen due to alleged presence of the Maute Group in Metro Manila.
Of course, no? Kaya isang factor din yun. And we expect na baka yung iba rin pang na-aresto doon, they might be coming here, no? So, in-expect din natin yun, baka mamaya dyan talaga lahat nila sila idalhin, no? Kaya we cannot take any chances.
Despite this, the NCRPO assures that they have not monitored any threats to security in the upcoming Sona of the President. Meanwhile, 3 of the 6 lanes along Commonwealth Avenue eastbound can be used by militant groups that will conduct protests on July 24. The NCRPO says it strictly orders its men to enforce maximum tolerance on the militant groups. The PNP says they understand the rights of militants to hold demonstrations.
Nananawagan din tayo sa ating mga militanteng grupo na wag naman na silang maging violente dahil we will impose the law kapag ganong nanakit na sila or nanira na sila ng mga private properties, no? While we respect democracy and freedom of assembly and freedom of speech, kailangan pa rin nating na sumunod sa ating batas.
The NCRPO says they would allow the protesters to hold demonstrations in front of the Commonwealth Elementary School in Quezon City. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
Meanwhile, former Chief Justice Renato Puno believes the shift to federalism and charter change are viable solutions to poverty and other perennial woes of the country. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte has been advocating for charter change and the shift to federal system of government. Under the present unitary system, power is held by the national government. Meanwhile, local government will be given more powers under the federal system. In an interview with Kuya Daniel Razon, retired Chief Justice Renato Puno says the change will be radical.
Hindi lang po natin muling sinusulat ang ating konstitusyon. But this time, it will be a radical rewriting of the Constitution because we are shifting from a presidential unitary government to a federal form of government.
But what benefit would it be for the ordinary people if the Constitution and the system of government are changed?
Mas maganda yung babaguhin kaysa yung hindi babaguhin. Ngayon, napapagod kami katatakbo eh.
Sa akin, hindi siguro.
Okay na rin yung ganito. May konting pagbabago lang about sa mga ano.
CJ Puno says this is a solution to the problems of the country, such as poverty, especially of the basic rights of the poor, such as education, health, housing, and employment, will be included in the Constitution.
Basahin mo yung Constitution natin. Ha? Bill of Rights, panay political rights yan. Ha? Kung ano hindi pwedeng gawin ng gobyerno, panay individual freedom yan. Basahin mo yung socio-economic rights. Ang haba niyan. Ha? Pero karamihan ang drawing.
Walang realization.
Hindi sinasakatuparan yan.
Walang realization.
Pwede tayong mamili ng mga rights of the poor that can be demanded from the state.
Mas maganda, yan ang matagal na pinapangarap ng maraming mamamayan.
Siyempre, pabor tayo doon, di ba? Kung tutulungan nila tayo ng maayos, okay yun sa akin.
Pabor ako doon kasi ikaw bilang sa sarili mo, hindi ka na mahihirapan eh. Ang gagawin mo na lang is gawin mo na lang yung trabaho mo bilang mamamayan.
Political dynasties can be prohibited expressly in the new Constitution, since for some, government positions are already a family business. Residents of Mindanao will also have equal representation in Congress.
Hindi na as may be provided by law.
Dahil pwede pa rin amendahan at pwede nyo pang kayo mag-uusap.
Tsaka that will never be provided by law.
Dahil sila yung dynasty ang nandun.
They will not commit political harikiri. Pag tinignan nyo yung composition ng ating Senate, talong-talo yung mga tiga Mindanao. Mas marami pa yatang senador sa La Vista kaysa sa Mindanao.
CJ Puno also said all these must be done under the present administration because he thinks only President Duterte can really push for it. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Preparations are now ongoing for the recording of several songs included in the finals of the A Song of Praise Music Festival Year 6. Leslie Longbowen tells us why. Several finalists of the A Song of Praise Music Festival Year 6 and Doc Monde Rosario gathered yesterday to discuss the guidelines for the upcoming recording of their compositions. Doc Mon says they are now preparing for the soon-to-be-released new ASOP album.
At this point, yung final set ng interpreters ay pinipili pa. I hope na matapos yan within the next week. Of course, pagkatapos niyan, I will have to talk with the musical arrangers na mapipili for the songs. Kasabang tumatakbo yung pag-aareglo, yung pag-aayos naman sa mga lyrics. In short, ang dami pang talagang gagawin. But the recording proper will start first week of August. And hopefully, makomplete yung album end of September.
Because of the upcoming recording and grand finals, composer Raymil Ananya couldn't help but feel anxious.
Win or lose, sa akin po, kahit na lose yung feeling ko pa rin, winner pa rin. Kasi yung purpose mo nagawa eh. Yung talagang gusto mong isigaw na proud ka sa Diyos, di ba?
Among the songs included in the ASOP Year 6 is the entry of Carlo David, who had been an interpreter of one of the songs that won in the ASOP Year 5.
I feel like meron akong responsibility to share whatever gift na nakuha ko mula sa Panginoon. Kaya wala namang mawawala, and it's gonna be a learning experience.
Meanwhile, Doc Mon lauded a said batch of composers.
Kung meron man nagbago, seriously, siguro yung skills ng mga composer. Mas ibang level ngayon eh. Iba yung level ng skills nila. Hindi ko na nakikita yung mga sakit ng mga composer na nakita ko ng year 1 at year 2.
4 monthly winners are still needed to complete the number of finalists. The ASOP Grand Finals will be held in November, wherein the winning composer will receive ₱500,000 pesos. Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Fans and supporters expressed delight for having the opportunity to watch the third sequel of Isang Araw Ikatlong Yugto last night. Monokson explains why.
Kasangbahays from Pasig City, Marikina, San Juan and Mandaluyong finally had the chance to watch Kuya Daniel Razon's advocacy film, Isang Araw Ikatlong Yugto. Their excitement was doubled as the special screening last night was held in a venue so accessible to them, in Tanghalan Pasigueño in Pasig City. The audience couldn't contain their emotions watching the film. According to Gemma, each scene of the film indeed touched her heart and lingered into her mind from beginning to end. Gemma says it was her first time to watch the film and admits that every part of it has a moral to gain.
Na-touch po ako kasi yung gawa ni Kuya na binigyan ng pera si Nora pambili ng gamot, ay bahagi niya doon kay Gina Pareño yung ibang pera. Parang naano niya yung gawa ni Kuya na mabuti, gumawa rin siya ng mabuti doon sa ibang tao. Kaya doon parang iyak ako. Kasi naano ko na sabi niya rin may awa ang Diyos.
Others also shared the same experience and review.
Malaki po ang in-improve ngayon sa itong part 3 na ito. Pwede na po ito sa international kung magkakaroon lang po ng pagkakataon na may palabas sa mga sinihan dito sa Metro Manila. Palagay ko po mas magkiklik ito kaysa dyan sa mga pelikula na wala namang kabuluhan ng mga.
Dito po talagang makikita mo yung realidad na nangyayari sa pelikula.
Movie fans were given a treat like free souvenir photos and free snacks prior to the start of the screening. The movie tour will also be screened in other key cities in Metro Manila and also in different parts of the globe. This coming August, the screening of the movie will be held in Manila area. Monokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasig City.
Coming up, the United Nations is deeply concerned by estimated 30 to 50,000 civilians still trapped in conflict in Raqqa, Syria.
WBO welterweight champ Jeff Horn preaches boxing legend Manny Pacquiao to think for himself following WBO decision.
And an Egyptian student builds epic monuments out of playing cards.
More from Y News after this break.
Meanwhile, new WBO welterweight champ Jeff Horn takes a sigh of relief after the World Boxing Organization approved his win over Manny Pacquiao. Victor Cosare will tell us why.
Jeff Horn is all smiles fresh off a decision by the World Boxing Organization or WBO that concluded he won his July 2 bout against Manny Pacquiao after the controversial points decision in Brisbane sparked calls for a review.
Try to think for yourself sometimes and not just have your handlers constantly in your ear. And he said after the fight he thought the decision was fair, but then to turn around and say you want to recount didn't sound like it was really coming from him. So I guess speak for yourself more in the future.
Horn accused Pacquiao of letting his handlers question the decision even though he accepted the outcome after the fight. Horn took the Filipino great's welterweight world title after judges scored the bout in the 29-year-old's favor. But many observers questioned the outcome, saying the officials had made a hometown decision. While there has been talk that 38-year-old Pacquiao may retire, a rematch was written into the contract for the initial fight, and the pair are expected to face each other again later this year.
I'll leave it up to the management to kind of decide that, but I'm happy to take on any name out there. I'm sure that he'll probably be wanting a rematch, and I'd be happy to give it to him.
Horn is in Los Angeles to attend the ESPY Awards on Wednesday. Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
A group of former basketball players was formally introduced to the public alongside the championship game of UNTV Cup off-season executive face-off last Monday. Bernardadis will tell us why.
Nabuo itong idea ito, kung natatandaan natin na 2 years ago, naglaro tayo ng isang exhibition game para kay Samboy Lim. Na at that time, medyo na-aksidente siya.
UNTV Cup Commissioner Atoy Coses, the idea to create the Samahan ng mga dating professional na basketballista foundation also came from UNTV, inspired by Kuya Daniel Razon.
And then after that, nabuo yung idea na bakit hindi tayo magtayo ng isang foundation ng mga samahan ng mga dating basketballista ng Pilipinas para in case na may ganun ulit pangyayari, meron tayong samahan na pwedeng tumulong, makatulong. At kaya yung idea yun ay si Kuya Daniel din po ang nagbigay ng idea.
For those dubbed as the legend of the Philippine basketball, it's high time to advance the said advocacy.
Dapat ito matagal na, no? Dahil sa marami tayong players na yung iba napapabayaan yung sarili, hindi nila nabibigyan ng attention yung buhay nila, diba? Hindi na napaganda. Malaking bagay ito sa mga players.
Hopefully magandang launching to. Marami makapansin at sa mga naging basketball fanatics noong araw na naging successful sa mga negosyo and sa mga buhay-buhay and kung makatulong, and it's a good welcome to the group.
This is why they are glad to return to the hard court to perform good deeds.
Well, from the bottom of my heart, nagpapasalamat ako sa UNTV.
Yung purpose ng event na to para din sa mga ex-PBA players na nangangailangan. Huwag kayong sabang sumuporta sa amin sa PBA at sa mga PBA legends. Thank you.
But any benefit game na may tutulungan, I'm all for it. So I'm glad to be here. I'm honored to be here.
Kay Kuya Daniel at sa UNTV, maraming salamat po at alam ko marami kayong tinutulungan, marami kayong iniisip, pero naisip niyo rin kami. Kaya napakalaking bagay po at pagpalain po kayo ng Diyos.
The group targets to help basketball players from 1975 to 1990 who are now in need of medical assistance. Bernardadis, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
A law student has combined his passions for art, architecture, and playing cards in dreams of opening a very special museum. Nino Armilio will tell us why.
Hours to build, seconds to destroy. Ahmed Hassan Rafi'i is fixated on making buildings out of playing cards. He dreams of opening a museum to put his intricate, fragile constructions on display. The Egyptian law student does not just make card houses, he makes palaces and churches, some of which take days to construct.
بحب كده بصراحة جدا، يعني أنا بحب الموضوع جدا. أنا بحب الأشكال الهندسية شوية، بحب الكوتشينة، بحب الفن، فحاولت إن أنا أجيب رابط ممكن يربط بينهم، فكان ده الرابط.
20-year-old Rafi'i has been pursuing his hobby for 10 years and hopes to win a Guinness World Record, something that would bring him one step closer to opening a museum, which he hopes to build out of cards. Rafi'i has reproduced monuments from Capitol Hill in Washington to the Renaissance churches of Europe. His largest creation is the Church of Losanda, named after a child killed in the recent bombings that targeted Christians in Egypt, which took 100 hours to build. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Those are the reasons behind the news. July 12, 2017. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am William Theo.
And I'm Doreen Basingan, because we need to know.
We will always ask why. Thank you for watching
Why News.